Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Leite, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the ascension and oneness teachings, law of attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are. Hi everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. My name is Kimberley Leite, and many of you who know about my work through Beings of the Light. And today I have another fellow channel and friend, Astrid. Hi Astrid.
Hi Kimberley. Hi everyone.
So today I wanted to talk about channeling and talk about how we as light workers are empowered through going through depression and dark night of the soul. This is a very common theme that many light workers experience. I've personally experienced, and Astrid has also experienced it. And from what I can see at the moment, collectively, the whole collective, a lot of the human race at the moment is going through the dark night of the soul. Many changes are occurring. But anyway, some of you know about Astrid's work, but for those who don't, I'm going to pass it over to Astrid. Astrid, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm almost 40, Ooh, still in my 30s, thank God. I live in Norway. I'm Norwegian. And I started channeling about, I think, 3 years ago. And I've always been I've always been very normal, average. And so the channeling was very weird for me. And so, now I channel, that's my job. That's what I do. I have a Facebook page, Facebook group, and a blog, astridhalvorsen.com. And I do YouTube videos where we group channel, and I also run courses for, right now we have self-acceptance course and a power and leading course. So yeah, in I think 6 to 9 months, I basically ran out of money and I had to do this. So now that's how I make my money. And it's just, I can't believe this is my life. I never thought that this would be my life. It's just so weird.
And from what you've also discussed publicly, Astrid, it's a life that maybe you didn't even conceive before.
No.
I know when you first started this journey, I mean, I've been friends with Astrid for a while now, so I know a lot of her backstory. But do you want to talk to the audience a little bit about your history, because you have been experiencing a lot of depression, dark night of the soul. Now you've come out of it, I would say, this inward journey that many of us go through was instigated because you were feeling closed off. So talk to the audience a little bit about your experience with this and how you found your power through it.
Yeah. So I remember I've always sort of struggled with life. When I was around 10 or 11 is when I sort of first noticed that I wanted to die. And I remember going to bed every night, and the only prayer that I had was, please God, let me die during the night. I come from a very normal, average, loving home. There was nothing wrong, never been abused, nothing traumatic, ever, nothing, not even bullied. I just didn't want to live, and I found that life was just very, very difficult, probably because I was so sensitive, emotionally sensitive. Everything I felt so strongly. And so, I've, from probably around the age of 10 until a few years ago, every day I wanted to die. That was my highest desire. And that was the only thing that I was hoping for. And so, but I thought everyone felt like this. I thought everyone had this pain and they were just braver and stronger to be able to carry it and not let it wear them down, or to not feel crushed by it like I did. So I thought everyone felt like this. So it never occurred to me to ask for help or try to fix it. I thought this is just what living is like. So yes, I had a normal, grew up in a normal family, went to school. Everything was very average with me. And I started working in oil and gas, which was fine, wonderful. And then in 2013, the oil price went down. And as a consultant, I was one of the first to be let go. And it was weird because getting a job had always been easy for me. But during this crisis, I couldn't get a job. And I remember this deep, deep shame of being unemployed. And I'm from a working class home, so to not have a job and not be a part of society in that way, it was so shameful. I remember for the first 6 months, I didn't even try to get unemployment benefits, because so I spent all my savings because there was just so much shame in it. And I had built up my whole identity around who I was at work. It was sort of my whole life. I don't have my own family. I don't have kids. I don't have a partner. So my whole identity was built around who I was at work, and then how that gave me value as who I am as a person. All my value was around having this job. And suddenly I didn't have that job to sort of make me feel worthy. I lost my whole identity is what I felt. And I remember I was too afraid of going out during the day to buy groceries because I didn't want people to know that I wasn't working. And there was just so much shame, so much shame. And after 2 years of benefits, or I guess into 1 year into being unemployed, I started Googling law of attraction. I think, Kimberley, that you probably, maybe that was how you started too, I don't know, but so many people Google law of attraction, manifesting money.
Yep.
Of course, that's what I wanted, yeah. And that's how I found the Good Vibe blog, and I saw that this guy, Joshua, had commented on some of these, the blogs or the questions. And I Googled Joshua because I found that I resonated with those answers. And that's how I found Gary Temple Bodley, who channels Joshua. And so for almost a full year, I did a one-on-one with Joshua, the higher beings that Gary channels. And we did this intensive, almost like a worthiness retrieval, I guess. We did this intensive question answers daily, where they basically taught me that I am worthy and that I have value. And they helped me get out of this started getting me out of this depression. And it was just so life-changing. And then at the end of almost 1 year of complaining and bitching and crying and insisting that I'm not worthy, I had this call with Gary where he channeled, live channeled on Zoom or Skype. And I remember I had so many questions. Why can't I figure this out? Because I still felt unworthy. I knew all the theory and I couldn't feel it. I couldn't make it work. And I was so frustrated. And I asked them, why can't I figure this out? And they said, instead of seeking all your answers outside of yourself, go within. And that I was so fucking angry. I just more or less hung up on them because I said, if I could find my own answers, I goddamn would. Obviously I can't channel. And I was just fuming. And so the next day I sat down and I wrote like 3 pages just in anger of channeling, because after a while you get used to the words they use, and they say my dear and you're magnificent, and they use sort of the same words, and so you can kind of fake it. That's what I thought I was doing, and I sent three pages to Gary, to Joshua, just to prove to them that I couldn't channel. And they wrote back to me, yes, that is channeling. And that was so weird. And that's sort of how it all got started, from this deep, deep depression where I was being guided every step of the way to help, to being helped out of the depression, to finally seeing myself as worthy. And then when I started channeling for myself, that is where I sort of realized that I have to start believing these messages, and I have to start living it. And so, yeah, and that was 3 years ago. So that was a huge change for me. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your story. I mean, a lot of us got the honor of hearing your story along the way. We got to hear the tears and the laughter and all the emotions.
The drama.
It did help us a lot. It did help us a lot. And, you know, it's a similar theme that many of us go through. I myself went through depression and a dark night of the soul, and that also instigated my spiritual journey. So, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So for you, Gary was your teacher. For many others, it might be somebody else, you know. But often a time we are asked to go through this depression. It's not because we're being punished. It's because we wanted that trigger, that catalyst for us to go inwards. Otherwise, we'll just coast through life. I mean, with me, for instance, I mean, a lot of you already know my story if you do follow the beings of the light. But, you know, I did have abilities when I was young. You know, when I was around a teenager, I started to see angels, just like my sister when she was at a similar age, right? But it wasn't like it is now. I could just see these energies floating. Sometimes I could feel the love and just cry of the divine love. But, you know, as a teenager, you're like, oh, put that spiritual stuff aside. I want to be a teenager and whatever. And I went through certain things that led me back to my work and to my inner work. And then, you know, it led me to become a Reiki therapist. So that helped me a lot. But of course, I just put that aside as well. At the time, I wasn't ready for it in my everyday life. And then I went through over 10 years ago, I went through a very severe like domestic violence relationship, and I became completely dissociated. I too felt shame because I'm supposed to be a Reiki therapist, even though I'm not. I wouldn't recognize myself as enlightened or anything, but I thought, how could I not see that? How could I not see what was happening? And, you know, and because there was certain mystical experiences within that, it actually made me like second question if I was actually meant to go through this. But then, of course, you got what society thinks is acceptable and everything. And basically at the end of it, I was completely dissociated from myself. It was the depression. I couldn't do anything. I just had to self-heal myself. And that, you know, turned into a dark night of the soul, which is like no meaning in life, completely disconnected to who I am, to life. I remember just staring out windows like a zombie, like staring out windows. And this happened for days on days and days on end. And, you know, I needed to, when I got to a point when I was able to start to feel again, I knew I needed to connect, right? So when we experience dark night of the soul, we need to find meaning again and connection again, because everyone is us. So for me, everyone has different ways of doing this. You know, connect to nature is a very powerful thing, because you don't have to even have a conversation. You can just connect and feel the energy, and that's a way of connecting to you, because Mother Gaia is us. So it helps you to connect. For me, I had the opportunity to start dancing. That's how I got into Latin dancing. And that allowed me to break down those walls and connect with another person in an intimate way. And that allowed me to feel and connect with another person and with myself. For me, that was a very powerful part of my healing. But, you know, everyone has different ways of this. Of course, looking at your belief systems is a very important aspect to this. I mean, when I went through my thing, of course, dancing helped me. But, of course, for me as well, I was looking at you can heal your life. Louise L. Hay, I remember there was it's still out there. You can heal your life, but there's like there's a video version of it, right? So I was watching that. I got into law of attraction. I was listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks things, but it just wasn't. A little bit was it made me feel like, okay, is it my fault then? Did I attract? You know, is this pain? It's because I'm not worthy, because I'm thinking the wrong things. And you sometimes can have more shame because maybe you're not ready to hear the full picture. Was that similar to you? Like when you were learning about law of attraction, you felt like, does that mean like it's punishment? And then like, did I do something wrong? At the very start, before you got a higher understanding of it, did you have a similar feeling?
I just remember thinking, I'm doing it wrong. I can't even do this right, because you're supposed to just think about money and then you get rich. And that's what I wanted, because I thought it would solve everything. But everything I learned at that point, it was like, oh, just change your thoughts. Just do this, just do this. And then I was thinking, if it doesn't work, if these changes, if they don't come in my life, that must mean that I'm not doing it right. Another thing that I can't master, another thing that I'm not good at. And it just felt like failure all over, because it's supposed to be so easy. Just think happy thoughts and you manifest what you want. And I couldn't even get that right. Like all the time I would feel like I was failing because I didn't understand. You can't just say, think about money and then get rich. That's what many of these books basically say. And then they forget to tell you everything behind it that you also need to do. But yeah, it basically made me feel like I was a failure even in this. I couldn't even do the LOA thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's common when you first start out doing the inward journey, because our egos are right there. Now, we have these patterns attached to our ego system, like we are stupid, we are not worthy, we're not capable. And who am I to go on this enlightenment journey? Remember who I am. You know, I'm nothing. Look at my life. If we have all these many questions, it's all conditioning that we have been bringing in conditions since we were young. You know, like you said, you didn't have a hard life growing up, yet you still experienced what you experienced. So, you know, I mean, we're both channels, and now we know a little bit more about what's really going on, and we know pre-birth intentions and soul contracts are a big part of that. So, I mean, law of attraction does go into that, but it's not because you're attracting because of the like so-called wrong thoughts. It is because part of your vibration includes your soul contracts or pre-birth intentions. So many light workers experience this. I mean, it's interesting because I'm also a counsellor, and when I went through my trauma at the time, what I perceived as trauma, I was then, you know, I felt like a calling. It was awoken within me because of it. And I feel like I need to help others that are going through similar things. And I was like, okay, I want to be a counsellor. But of course, I wasn't actually ready at that time. I healed myself. And then I went to do my counselling degree, and I realised, okay, working in domestic violence may not be, you know, like in a refuge, maybe full on. So then I decided to do relationship counselling because it still deals with the domestic violence, but not in such an intense way, for instance, like you do in a refuge. So I was doing that, and that's actually when I started to look even further into law of attraction. I actually, just like you, I was looking into law of attraction, and I found the law of attraction, the radio network, and I actually discovered Joshua as well. The very first week it aired, the premiere episode on the round table. So, and that made me open my mind even more, and that made me think, hang on, like there's nothing wrong with me, and I do have the abilities, not to be ashamed of it, and like everyone has the abilities, because with the beings you channel, the beings I channel, the beings a lot of other channels bring forth, say that we all have these abilities to channel. We have all these abilities within us. It may not be channeling though, like in the overt way that we are doing. Everyone has the ability though, but within your soul contracts, your pre-birth intentions, perhaps it is doing some form of energy healing. Perhaps it is inspiring other people in many different ways. This is what a light worker is. So and like when I ended up doing my counselling degree, an interesting theme is that many other people, I think actually the majority of people who started doing the counselling course, they all came from a background of trauma, because there's a term called the wounded healer, and it's very true. Most people, pretty much everyone I talked to had some instance of, you know, a trauma in their family or within their own personal life, and I then had a calling to assist others. So this is how it works on this level. It may not be a counselor, it might not be a channel, but we go through these things for a reason. It's not by accident. So for those of you watching or listening to this, if you are experiencing a depression or dark night of the soul, you are drawn to this for a reason. You are a light worker. Especially what's going on at the moment, the collective, I feel, is going through this dark night of the soul. Things are changing. Society is changing. What they held is, you know, the meaning of society, the meaning of who they are and others, and the changes and the unknown is causing their belief systems to deteriorate. And this is why the event is happening. It's allowing us to let go of these programs that no longer serve us, fear programs, conditioning, the beliefs, where we see ourselves as separate to other people when other people are us. So it's like the collective is all going through a collective dark night of the soul. Now, for those of you who've done your work, your inward work, the effects of this may not be felt on an individual level. But those of you who are sensitive, I'm sure you do feel like the energy that's out there, and a lot of people are in fear. So the collective's going through this, but you may be going through this on an individual level, not maybe just with what's going on at the moment, but it could be just with something else in your life. So know that if you have the theme of this in your life, a depression, you have a dark night of the soul, you are called to do something extraordinary. Usually people will have this theme in their life is because they are the light workers. They chose to experience this pre-birth because they wanted this to trigger, to catalyze them, to go inwards, to discover their own power. Because I know, like with you, Astrid, I know the same with you, but for me, I wouldn't have looked to law of attraction and looked at these higher perspectives and really did the inward work if I had not gone through this trauma. And we have a choice. We always have a choice, no matter what your circumstance is. I know a lot of people have had lives that had lots of challenging situations in their life. And they might ask, you know, you might ask yourself, why do I have to go through this? Why me? Even though you maybe are doing the inward work, but you feel like you are not connecting enough. You are, you know, usually it's due to your belief systems that you're not worthy, that you're incapable. But this is for you to allow you to remember that you are worthy and that you are capable and that you are all powerful beings. Even if you feel so weak, you feel cut off from yourself and others, even if you feel disconnected to all life, you feel like you have no purpose in life, you are still powerful. It's just you have forgotten. And this event is assisting you to go inwards. But it asks you to be brave to go inwards. And that can be very scary because it actually asks you to go in and look at the pain and what the pain is telling you. I know, and if you experience on your end in your community, Astrid, but a lot of people are scared of looking at the fear, you know. And I know that there are a lot of people in spiritual communities or people that haven't grasped the higher perceptions of law of attraction, for instance, that, you know, just think happy thoughts, you know, that's all you have to do. And it's not. You need to address it, because if you don't address it, that energy, those belief systems are still being attached to you and it will still come to the surface. And what is occurring now at the moment, this great expansion event, is triggering all these fears and beliefs that you had to come to the surface. So you will always have to address it at some point of time. But it's not being fearful of the fear. You know, we've been conditioned to be scared of the emotion of fear, that is unwanted, that it's shameful to feel sad, to feel depressed, to feel angry, to not feel worthy, like to feel like you're worthless is wrong. And then you have more shame and then you judge your own journey. But it's all about love and acceptance, and that's how we go through this. It is just one step at a time. How did you experience it in this way, Astrid? How did you become more empowered in this light?
I remember it was because when I was talking to Joshua, these daily questions, my main problems were, like you mentioned, connection. I felt very disconnected from everyone because I thought I was such a horrible person that I had to isolate myself from other people so I wouldn't hurt them. And that the horrible part of me would be when I would say things that would trigger other people, not even trigger them. They would not even be offended, or they wouldn't care. They would just think it a normal part of the conversation. And I would run these sentences, what I had said, I would run it over and over and over and over in my head. And I could think about it for 2 weeks. If I said to someone, oh, you look good today, they would say, thank you. And then later I would say, oh my God, I said, you look good today. And now she thinks I think she looks like shit every day. And I would turn everything into a reason to hate myself. And I actually thought I was a horrible person and that I had to keep myself away from other people to prevent me from hurting them. And the more that I isolated myself, the worse I felt, and the worse I thought I was. Because when you're stuck with your own feelings, your own thoughts about yourself, you just kind of go into this, it's this circle where you, or this spiral where you just pull yourself down, making everything worse. So my main problems were connection. I deeply wanted connection, but I thought I wasn't worthy of it. And then also this idea that I was too much, too loud, that I was talking too much, and that I was just too loud, too much of everything. And so these worst part of myself, these areas where I thought this is the reason I'm not worthy of life, why I'm not worthy of being around other people, this turned out to be, I don't know, the cornerstones of my purpose. Because my purpose depends, if I'm here to channel, it depends on me connecting with other people. Connecting to people and sharing my story is going to help them share their story so they can work on their issues. And also the loudness, if you're afraid to talk, if you're afraid to express yourself, how are you ever going to share these messages? So me being loud and being too much and wanting to connect with people is sort of the main reason why I channel. And those parts of me that I hated and thought were wrong are absolutely necessary for me to be able to live my purpose. And it's just so crazy how the things that we see as wrong in us are maybe the most wonderful parts of ourselves. Of course, everything is wonderful, but it's all about perspective. How we see ourselves when we're in this illusion of unworthiness, it's just an illusion that we're flawed. And if you can change your perspective, it's just amazing how and now it's difficult to believe that I thought, how I could think that I was so wrong, that these parts of me are so wrong. It's so weird to think back to the mindset that I had back then. But it was also such a difficult journey for me to get from seeing myself as all wrong and to now seeing myself as almost all good, almost. There's still work to be done. But yes, it's like you said, it's so important to not just ignore the fear and not just ignore the negative feelings, because they're messengers. And you cannot get to that point where you accept yourself and release the pain until you're willing to look at the parts that cause this pain. And I remember you channeled for me, back in the days when you started, you channeled for me, I think at least 5 amazing messages about my origins, about who I truly am. And it helped me so much because you have this unique gift of connecting and getting details, specific details. I've never met another channeler who can get these specific details about past lives and parts of my personality. And it helped me so much because in that moment, I couldn't see the value of me as Astrid, but through your messages, I could see the value of me as who I had been in other lives. And that helped me to accept this person that I am today, because if I had value in other lives, if I was worthy in other lives, maybe those valuable parts would still be left within who I am today. And I still remember how much help you gave me in those messages, because it just changed my perception of self completely. And that was just when you were starting out. And like now there's so much, even so much more power in your messages. It's just amazing what you do.
Oh, thank you so much for those kind words, Astrid. And I can say the same about you. You know, you are inspiring many people. Like, you are so authentic. Like, I do recommend you guys check out her YouTube channel, because she's very authentic. And what I really like about the messages you bring forth is that you are also empowering people, but you also, like, what's unique is that when you channel, you flip between who you are, like you go in and out during the session. So it's really cool to have that dialogue between you and who you're bringing forth, and you're just authentic like you are doing now, you know, like you don't mind sharing that, you know, you went through what you went through and that it's empowered, because that's what a true leader is these days. And this is a message for all of you watching or listening to this, that true leadership in this time of great awakening is no longer in the ego mind. It is leading from the heart center. It is being vulnerable. And I know this can be very scary to be vulnerable, put yourself out there, but this is what a true leader lies. And those of you watching this, you are all leaders in your own way. It doesn't have to be this grand scale leadership. It's leadership in relations to your own frequency, being the example of alignment. All of you watching or listening to this, you're watching this for a reason. Now, you may not be experiencing depression or dark night of the soul at the moment, but I'm sure there were times in your life where you did experience this, even if maybe it wasn't on a grand scale to what Astrid is explaining about her life. But know that everything, every challenge that you go through is actually for us. Nothing happens to us. And I know that during the journey, a common thing that I've experienced is that a lot of these people that are doing the inward journey, one of the biggest things is self-judgment, judging their own progress, because people compare themselves with others. I mean, I know I did when I first started, and I've since learned not to do that. But you do. It's human nature conditioning to compare yourself with others, to compare your progress. You know, you could have done your inward work for many years, yet you still don't have the aha moment, or the aha moment in what your life purpose is. And though you question your journey, you question who you are. But there is a thing called divine time, and soul contracts also tie into this. Everything is working according to divine time. Everything is working out perfectly the way it's supposed to. What you chose to explore pre-birth. And yes, sometimes others' journeys seem more advanced or quicker than you, but that's only because of the role they chose to explore in this lifetime. It does not mean they're more advanced than you. In fact, I don't know, actually, the beings that you channel, if they relay the same message, but you know, the beings of the light who come through me say that everyone on this planet is very highly advanced. It's just some people chose to remember who they are, but some people did not. You call these people, unawakened or non-spiritual people, but they are just as advanced as you and each other. It's just that we are all playing these different roles here to trigger and activate each other, to allow us to go inwards, because this is part of not just our individual soul contracts, but also our collective soul contracts. Because by us being an example of alignment, working on our vibration, which means addressing our fears, not pushing them away, but addressing them and thanking them. What is the fear telling you? If you have a negative emotion, what is it showing you? It's showing you have a limiting belief. Now, you may not see it as a limiting belief because we've been conditioned all our lives to think a certain way. But if anything gives you a negative emotion, it means you are not seeing things from the divine being of love that you are. Now, we all have an aspect of fear within us because we're still attached to duality consciousness. So we might have done all this work on our fears, but it still might be there. This is part of our collective soul contracts. We wanted to experience this contrast, love and fear, for it to propel us forwards in remembering who we are, because we are already enlightened. It's just we have forgotten it. So this journey we are all going through in our perceived individual, journeys and the collective journeys is propelling the whole collective to remember who we are. So yes, there's going to be a lot of people in fear, especially at the moment, but this is part of their soul journey, their collective contracts. Now, often we do judge. We may judge others who are in fear, or judge the situation, judge our governments. We wish something could be different than it is. This is a form of control. This is a part of duality consciousness, the system that we have been attached to, but we're in the process now of letting go of that. So this is why you see a lot of people, even those who you may seem, very enlightened in your perception, they may still be experiencing fear, because it's basically triggering every aspect of fear within us and limiting beliefs within us for it to come to the surface. And it is okay if you're in fear. That's a very important message, isn't it, Astrid? Because there's a lot of people out there who think it's not acceptable to have fear and it's wrong to have fear. And this is why we're here. We're here to address the fear, not push it away. Fear is our teacher. There is a gift there within it. And it's about acceptance as the first point, because when you can accept something, you're not saying that, okay, if I accept something, I'm going to attract more of this. It actually means you are starting to see things from a perspective of love, the divine being that you are. And this perspective helps you raise your vibration. And once you can do that, you can practice other perceptions of love, such as gratitude. You can thank it. You might not be in a position to absolutely love your conditions, but you can accept it and be grateful for it. Even what's occurring now, you can be grateful that's given you an opportunity to stay at home and connect with your loved ones more over the phone, or to do some projects you didn't have time for before. It's all happening for us, even if we cannot see it from a human comprehension standpoint. And it is just one step at a time. But what's your experience with this, Astrid, about all of this?
Yeah, for me right now, what's going on, what can I say? I'm not triggered by it in the same way that the masses are. So I don't feel fear of disease or death, because I've always been very confident in my health, or it's never been an issue to me. So I was not experiencing this fear, and I thought, yay, thank God, lucky me. And then of course something else happened in my life that triggered fear. So it was a situation totally unrelated to the coronavirus, but it still triggered that same fear in me. So it seems to me like what we're experiencing now means that everyone is going to feel this fear on some level, everyone. And I'm just like everyone else. I have the same issues, the same problems. It doesn't matter that I channel, I'm still human. And so I was being triggered, and for me it was how I have this habit of seeing myself as a victim. And it's buried very deep within me, because I had been working on this issue for so long, for many years, and I thought I had nailed it. I thought it was about control, which of course it is. But I noticed that we seem to, when you solve an issue at this level where you are today, and then 2 months later you meet the same issue, and you're thinking, but I thought I fixed this. I thought I had fixed my limiting beliefs. But it just means that you're getting to work on this issue at a deeper level, at a higher vibration. So you get to work on the same issues over and over again. If it's part of something that is important to you, something that is a fear that you have been carrying for all your life, or most of your life. And for me, one of those fears is that I see myself as a victim. I believe I'm a victim. And so right now, this is what I'm working on. And with this specific issue, which is a neighbor that's playing loud music. And it's so very, I don't know, it's such a small problem compared to what everyone else is going through right now. But for me, it's been such an annoying and traumatic part, where I feel like I cannot control. This person comes into my life, into my home, controlling me with his loud music all day, all night. And it was so traumatic. And it got to the stage where as soon as he would turn on the music, this bass, the thumping, as soon as he would turn on the music, I would feel fear. I would feel like I was helpless, powerless, out of control. And it would consume me all the time. And if he wasn't playing, I would fear that he would start playing. And it boiled down to me feeling like a victim. And then I finally realized, of course, I knew it, but I didn't believe it, that he is just reflecting a part of my vibration. He is just a small unwanted in my vibration. And so now, over just a few days after working with this issue for 5 years, I'm able to see, if I'm honest with myself, I don't even know if it's an unwanted anymore, because it's just music. I don't even know if I want it to go away. And so it's these issues that we have, the fear that we carry within ourselves that is being triggered in so many ways. I mean, people are dying all over the world. They're afraid of this virus. And here I am, I'm afraid of loud music. It's such a ridiculous idea, but it is this thing where the universe, or that your inner being, who you truly are, is going to help trigger you into feeling what you need to feel in order to realize how you are limiting yourself, how you can gain more freedom, how you can gain more freedom to be who you are, to express yourself, to feel more loved, to feel better, to enjoy your life even more. We just need a little bit of help in understanding where we are limiting ourselves. And it's so crazy how we trigger ourselves in these weird, wonderful daily situations, these seemingly unimportant situations that for some reason trigger us, like completely out of context, where it helps us feel the fear that is in a way so much bigger than the trauma that we're going through. Like loud music, how horrible is that? But for me, it felt like a death threat. It was just horrible. And so it's so weird how in these phases, we're all experiencing individually what the masses are going through. Even though the triggers might be different, we're all experiencing it on some level. And I just love sort of that play between individuality and the collective. It's just, I mean, I love it. It's just amazing.
Yeah. It's so interesting to observe as well how there is a lot of fear. And yes, I understand that some of it is rational, especially those who have conditions and certain medical conditions. And for them, it is a real rational fear. And, that's acceptable to have that fear. There's nothing wrong to have fear over this virus, right? But it's about addressing our fears about it. But yeah, like it's not just the fears of that are being triggered, like you said. There's a lot of other stuff that maybe we don't see as a real fear, limiting belief, just like you said with the music. Like you might not have thought about, oh, that's a real fear. And then you might have just lived your life with this certain belief system that the conditions have to always be perfect, right? And it took this event to trigger that conditioning from you, that belief system into your conscious awareness, and that's happening in many different ways. And it could be subtle, like you said. It doesn't have to be the fear of the virus itself. It is most likely going to be lots of little fears that you have, buried away within yourself, because maybe before it didn't really cause much issues to you, but now being called for all those belief systems based on duality consciousness, such as wrong or right, for it to be, brought forth to the surface. I know for me as well, I mean, luckily I caught it, but even for me when I went shopping, I got angry that, like, oh my God, I still can't get toilet paper after 2 weeks. And I'm a vegetarian, and I was like, my goodness, even the vegetarian food, like I didn't have any options. So I got a little bit upset, because I was like, what am I going to eat? And I'm like, luckily I was able to process, and that it's okay. There's always bread. End of the day, there's always bread. Like, I'm not going to die of hunger. So that was one little thing that I noticed, that I had tried to control the conditions. I need to have my meals a certain way. I need to eat certain foods. And this kind of triggered that. And we see this on a mass scale. Like, look at I don't know if it's happening in Europe, Astrid, but I know in Australia we had this big panic buying, and everyone is buying up all the toilet paper and
and flour here. Flour, for some reason, like, is everyone going to bake? I don't think so. You know, when you're home with your kids, you're not going to start baking, but like toilet paper and flour. Crazy.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You know, taking this is not a gastro thing. So, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get the diarrhea.
This is an example as well about conditioning and what we see on the TV. Part of that is our conditioning, what we see on the news. If we keep seeing on the news people, you know, panic buying toilet paper, then we might feel triggered like, oh, no, I have to buy toilet paper because I'm going to miss out. So we can be triggered on many different levels in many different scenarios, right? So in your everyday life, it could be your partner, could be your friend. You know, now that everyone's kind of, you know, been told to stay in their homes, you're in close proximity to a lot of people. Maybe you weren't used to that before, so you can be triggered a lot. But know that if you are triggered by another, they are playing your mirror. This is law of reflection. So it is a gift for you, right? They are showing you that you have a limiting belief about yourself. It's not the other person that's in fault. No one is in fault, but they are reflecting a belief that system that you have, and they're giving you that gift of reflecting it back to you. So everything that's occurring now is an opportunity for you to go inwards and to release what is no longer needed. And I know that, you know, it can be challenging for a lot of people. I know, Astrid, like for you, maybe the virus itself, this situation isn't challenging for you. But I know that there are a lot of people who are in a lot of fear, and it is okay. And it's just one step at a time. Acceptance is a very important first step. And then if you can even practice gratitude about what this event is allowing you to do because of it, that maybe you didn't have time otherwise. That's just a little simple example of what you can do to address the fear. But it's always about going inwards. And of course, you know, meditation, I'm sure many of you are already doing that, but I don't stress that enough, how important meditation is, especially during this time, because we are being triggered so much by many different things. And with that, just, you know, other things that we can do together to assist in our frequency. So, you know, the beings of the light always talk about connecting with, you know, Mother Nature, with Gaia. And I know that a lot of us, depending what country you're from, some of you are in lockdown, some of you are not in lockdown, but it might be more challenging to connect to nature. But, you know, if you're lucky enough, you may have a backyard. You can do your meditation, you know, outside, connect to the plants and the trees. If you have no nature in you, like if you around you, such as if you live in a unit, you know, the element of air is also nature. You might not have thought about that, but it is nature. Are you able to open a window, go on your balcony and connect to the wind, feel the wind on your face, and allow that energy to connect to who you are, because Mother Nature is us. So this is another tool that you can do to assist you going inwards. And it's about connection. Because of dark night of the soul, it does trigger a loss of connection with each other, a loss of meaning. And this is what a lot of us are going through in the collective, that our way of living in the world is now forever changed. It will be changed for the better, but a lot of us cannot see it in this moment because of the amount of fear. So trust that things will get better, but it may not feel like that right now. So try and do something that allows you to connect with who you are. It might be calling a friend. It could be simple, something like that. It could be engaging in a project that maybe you used to do as a child. This will help to connect to the inner child within. Do something that gives you joy, because joy is a frequency of love and allows you to connect with who you are. See everything around you as an opportunity to go inwards and to open your heart center and to allow yourself to be an example to maybe those in your home, or to be example for those in your wider communities, to be in alignment. Because what happens when you're in alignment, which means you are aligned to more of who you are, which means you are seeing things from a perspective based in love, you will receive guidance. It may not be direct guidance. You may not see, you know, a being sitting there in the corner directing you with some guidance. It doesn't always happen that way. It's your intuition. You know, we are never alone. They're always here with us. And these beings are actually aspects of us. We are never not connected to them. We are always connected to them. So if you can maintain your vibration, your alignment, you will receive guidance that's best for your highest good and the highest good for others, especially in the Lightworker community. You may feel like, I'm not living my purpose, I can't assist others. Now I feel like I have a calling and I can't help, but you can help. It'll be individualized to you. So if you go in and work on your vibration, you will receive guidance about your next step. Maybe it's doing a video, maybe, you know, it's going to be unique to you, but the call and the guidance will always be there, what's best for you. But it's about being in the present moment and going inward. And Astrid, do you have any anything to add to that? Any techniques that you found helpful?
Yeah, I think you already said it. For me, mostly it's about letting go of judgment, because like you said, it's so easy, especially when you know a little bit about this spirituality thing and the law of attraction, it's easy to judge others that are in fear. And so I find myself thinking, oh, why are you so dramatic? Why are you so afraid? So I judge others for being in fear, and then I judge myself for judging. So it's like I throw on some extra judgments there. Why can I not judge myself too, just to make it sure, just to make it even worse? And it's just so unnecessary to judge myself for judging. We're all human, we all have issues, we all have triggers. And so try to not judge yourself for reacting in fear, try to not judge yourself for judging. And like you said, just accept yourself, accept that you're feeling fear, and accept that you're not always acting rationally, accept that sometimes when you're confined with your family, that sometimes you just snap because they're our biggest triggers, our biggest teachers. And so please stop judging yourself for being human. You know, stuff happens. It's okay. You're still worthy and good enough, even if you lose your temper or even if you judge others, God forbid. And especially when you judge yourself, it's okay. Just try to accept yourself, because it's so easy to go there with all this spirituality, to be, no, I'm not judging anyone and I'm perfect, and ease up on it. Just allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, because the more that you can allow yourself to feel it, you can process it and let it go and just move on. Yeah. Other than that, I think you said everything. Yeah.
Oh, well, that was perfectly said, Astrid. Judgment, letting go of control, because it's very easy to, like you said, to judge others that are in fear, because just because you are able to see a higher perspective to what is occurring doesn't mean others are ready for that yet. It is part of their journey. So expect a lot of people to be in fear, and it is okay. If you can maintain your alignment, perhaps you are inspired to say something, to share something that might help someone that they'll be able to take on board, you know, that may assist them. Everyone is going on their journey uniquely and in different, what we perceive as different times, but everyone is just as advanced as each other. Everyone is just playing roles. But like you said, most importantly, let go of the judgment on yourself. This is a very common thing that I see. There's a lot of people that are on this inward journey judge themselves. And it is okay to feel fear. It is okay to feel like a little bit disconnected. This is a grand purge. This is what is occurring now. Everyone is going through a purge. So it's okay not to feel normal or to feel like in a high alignment that you did before this event occurred. It is normal. Just accept it. Know that there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of shifts occurring within your being, and accept it. As if you can accept it, you actually let go of the resistance. And by letting go of the resistance, you will go through it more smoothly. If you try and hold on to it, it's just going to stay longer and cause you more suffering. And you don't want to suffer. You don't need to suffer. It's up to you. You have the choice to suffer or not. You always have that choice. Wonderful. All right. Well, I think it's a good note to finish it here, Astrid. Astrid,
yes.
Remind everybody again about how they can contact you.
Yes, I have a blog or a website, astridhalvorsen.com. I'm also on Facebook. There's a public Facebook page, Astrid Halvorsen Channeling. And there's a Facebook group if you prefer privacy. And I'm on YouTube, Astrid Halvorsen. What else? I think that's it. Yeah. Find me, check me out. Please do.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a guest on our
Thank you.
episode. It's a pleasure to have you on. And for those of you who want more information about me, just jump over on the website beingsofthelight.com. I invite you to join Facebook community, Beings of the Light with Kimberley Community. We have a Facebook page, also a YouTube channel where you'll find a lot of offerings there. I also have a Patreon community where you can actually participate in sessions. And also, in light of this topic, Dark Night of the Soul and Depression, you might want to check out the events section on my website, because I've just recently started a group event, and this is for people who are experiencing depression and Dark Night of the Soul, or just would like to have some higher perspectives on what is occurring within their personal life. It is a technique called high dimensional therapy that the Beings of the Light basically created with me. It's a new technique. It's kind of like a therapy session, but it involves channeling, and it also involves light language activation transmissions as a very healing session. It's quite unique. But if you find yourself a bit lost at the moment, a bit disconnected, I encourage you to check that out. And those sessions are going to be also held, even though it's a group setting, they're going to be held privately. So I encourage you to check that out if you are going through any challenges at the moment. But yeah, so I encourage you to check Astrid's work out, because it is phenomenal. And
thank you.
You know, she's an inspiration just to watch, just to be witness to her journey, how she came from some, you know, really depressed and angry at life to empowering herself, and now she's empowering others. And that is what it's a very good example of what can occur by going through the dark night of the soul. It might feel like complete suffering, but at the end of that tunnel, if you can go inwards, you will find your power, not just to empower your life, but to empower others. It is there for you. There's nothing to be fearful for. There are gifts in all of it. So with that, I bid you farewell, and until next time.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank
Love
you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.